let's talk about Rick Perry and how he got to be a millionaire. Well, you know that he's been in government for over a quarter century now. It's most of his career was spent in government. So how did a guy who started with no money and started in government get all this money? Well, that's a good question. For example, in 1987, his wife and himself made a combined income of $45,224. Now, that was actually a pretty good year for them. In other years, they've made as low as $7,000 or $8,000 apiece, right? So, but in 87, they're at $45,000. In 1989, he becomes an agriculture commissioner, which is a fairly important role in Texas. And then he gets a salary of $70,000. Well, that's good, and that's normal. Nothing wrong with that. That's his government salary. So they're already doing a little better. Great. Well, then curious things started to happen. In 1993, he wound up buying 10 acres of undeveloped land, and he wound up selling it in 1995, only a couple of years later. And look at this, made a gigantic profit over $342,000. Now, a guy on a limited salary, how does he buy a piece of property for that little and sell it for that much? Well, it turns out Michael Dell, you know, of Dell Computers, decided that he needed that property for some adjoining property, et cetera, and wound up paying him a ton of money for it. Now, look, if that's the only property exchange that happened where he made a huge profit, you might say, hey, Michael Dell's a rich guy, and maybe he just really needed that property, and that's why he did it. More curious minds might think, hey, I wonder if Michael Dell needed anything from the government of Texas and wound up giving $340,000 extra to the governor of Texas, or at that time, I believe he's not governor yet, but he's still an important player in Texas politics. Maybe that helps him, maybe it doesn't. But if it's by itself, I would say that's not a good enough case. Well, then you've got other things like he buys and sells stock in something called Kinetic Concepts, and he winds up making a $38,000 profit. Now, $38,000 profit is pretty good, but again, it's not world-beating. But it turns out that the guy that owns Kinetics is actually a donor of Rick Perry. So did that guy wind up sharing some information that allowed Rick Perry to make some profit? Well, it's a second piece of evidence, but maybe not enough by itself. But then the most interesting property exchange happened basically in 2001. Now, at this point, he's moved up from agriculture commissioner to lieutenant governor and then eventually governor, right? And he bought this piece of land from another state senator, from Troy Frazier, who's also a Republican, for $314,770. Okay, now he's got enough money to buy that. No problem with that. But 6 years later, in 2007, Perry sold it for $1.1 million. That's a profit of over $823,000. That's a gigantic profit. That's not a little profit. That's not something like, oh, golly gee willikers, look at all these deals. I wind up getting all this money. Oh, I put it into stock, and then I get real estate, and every time I put it into real estate, I triple my money. I wonder how that happened. Well, I'll tell you how it happened. It turns out the person who sold the land in the first place, the Senator Frazier, is partners with the guy who eventually bought it from Rick Perry. So do those businessmen have interest in the state government of Texas, where they then say, hey, to the senator, hey, we'll help you make a little money. Oh, Governor Perry, absolutely. We'll sell you the land, you guys, and then you guys sell it to each other, and at the end, we'll give you another extra $823,000 and go, wow, this Rick Perry is a real estate genius. But I'm sure it had nothing to do with trying to influence those politicians. I'm sure it was a wild coincidence. Now, do you see how politicians get rich? Look, some of them sometimes write books, and those books make a lot of money. And if you're a president, you're going to get these huge speaking engagements, etc. But the governors don't necessarily get big speaking engagements. They don't necessarily get big book deals. But they make money somehow. Sometimes they come in poor, and they leave millionaires. This is how they leave millionaires. These kind of shady deals.